Do you know what mechanics hate fixing the most? Old Japanese cars. Today, we're counting down 10 Japanese immortals, the kind of cars that make mechanics sigh and say, yeah, there's no money to be made here. Number 10. Subaru Legacy Outback, First Edition. Did you know the first Subaru Outback was born from an extremely casual brainstorming session? What if we just lifted the Legacy wagon? And so, in the mid-1990s, Subaru accidentally created one of the most unkillable cars of its era. And boy, this thing didn't care if you lived in the city, the mountains, or somewhere your GPS refuses to acknowledge. It assumed every road would be terrible, and it was prepared accordingly. Higher ride height, beefier suspension, permanent all-wheel drive, and the mechanical equivalent of spite built into every component. This wasn't designed for Whole Foods parking lots. This was for people who genuinely needed to drive through a forest to get to work. The secret to its immortality? Under the hood sits the EJ22, a 2.2-liter flat-four boxer engine that has achieved cult status among people who actually know things. If engines had a death wish, this one ignored it. 2.2 liters of flat-four bliss, built so bulletproof it could start in minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit weather. Number 9. Toyota Camry. The old Toyota Camry doesn't try to impress you, and that's exactly why it lasts forever. And the 1997 to 2001 Camry is the biggest automotive proof that boring wins. Take a look at the fourth-generation 2001 Toyota Camry. This tank for regular folks came with two legendary reliable engines, a 2.2-liter four-cylinder that sounds like an industrial refrigerator but run, and a 3.0-liter V6 for people who occasionally want to feel mild acceleration without having a full spiritual experience. No screens, no fragile buttons, no features designed to impress you at a showroom. Toyota built this Camry with one quiet goal: make sure there's as little to break as possible. That's why there are Camrys out there with 400,000, 500,000 miles still doing daily duty. Number 8. Nissan Altima. Pop quiz. Name one person who owned a first-gen Nissan Altima. You can't. Nobody can. Because the 1993 to 1997 Altima is the most forgotten reliable car in history. And that's exactly why it's brilliant. The early 90s were wild for Nissan. They were coming off the high of the 240SX, the 300ZX, and the Skyline GTR in Japan. Cars that made people's hearts race and wallets cry. Then, they looked at the boring family sedan market and went, you know what? Let's win that too. The Altima replaced the Nissan Stanza, which was a car so forgettable that we had to Google it 3 times while writing this sentence just to remember it existed. The Stanza was Nissan's attempt at competing with the Honda Accord and Toyota Camry, and it failed miserably, so Nissan nuked it and started over. The first-gen Altima launched in 1993 with a mission: beat the Accord and Camry at their own game. And you know what? It actually did. On paper, in reviews, in every measurable way. Journalists loved it. Better handling than the Camry, more fun than the Accord, actually pleasant to drive. And America collectively shrugged and bought Camrys anyway. But here's why the first-gen Altima deserves respect. Nissan built it like they were mad about the Stanza's failure. They over-engineered everything out of spite. Under the hood sat the KA24DE, a 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine that made 150 horsepower, which was solid for the early 90s. This wasn't some economy motor phoning it in. This was a dual overhead cam 16-valve engine with an aluminum head and a cast-iron block. The transmission? Also shockingly competent. The 5-speed manual was smooth and durable. The 4-speed automatic wasn't fancy, but it worked, which in the 90s was basically a miracle for an automatic transmission. The suspension was another win. Multi-link independent rear suspension, which sounds boring, but meant this thing actually handled amazingly. It didn't wallow through corners like a drunk guy the way most family sedans did. It was boring, yes, but boring in the way that a hammer is boring. It just does the job without complaining. Number 7. Honda Accord. Have you ever seen a car company get competitive with itself? Well, that's exactly what happened when Honda wanted to build the 4th-generation Accord. This is the generation where the Accord stopped being a nice family sedan and became the benchmark. Every other mid-size car had to line up next to it and explain itself. Toyota felt pressure. Nissan started sweating. Ford saw the engineering bill and said, "Yeah, we're going to focus on trucks." The real crime happened under the hood. Honda dropped in the F22 engine, a 2.2-liter four-cylinder making 125 to 140 horsepower depending on trim, and zero excuses for braking. This thing was built like Honda expected owners to forget it existed. Thick aluminum block, reinforced cylinder walls, forged crankshaft. That's not economy car behavior. That's "I plan on outliving you" behavior. And then there were the tolerances. Honda's manufacturing precision was borderline obsessive. Everything fits perfectly. Less vibration, less wear, less drama. These engines didn't leak oil. They didn't burn coolant. They didn't ask questions. They just showed up every morning for 300,000 miles and kept quiet about it. Oh, and the build quality sealed the legend. Thick steel panels with real rust protection. Doors that closed with a bank vault thunk. Interiors that didn't crack, fade, squeak, or fall apart like a budget rental. The seats stayed firm even after decades of use. Dashboards stayed intact. Honestly, these cars aged like they had a skincare routine. Number 6. Toyota Hilux. Do you know why mechanics always feel sad whenever they see a 1990s Hilux roll up into the shop? It doesn't require any major repair, just oil change. This truck has survived revolutions, floods, and owners who think maintenance is a government conspiracy. And it's still running. We're talking about the 5th-generation Hilux built from 1988 to 1997. It is the most disrespected legend in automotive history. In America, they didn't even give it a cool name, just called it the Toyota pickup. That's it, just truck, like calling your dog dog. Starting in 1991, they built these in Fremont, California to dodge 25% chicken tariff. But Toyota knew customers don't buy the name, they buy reliability, and that's exactly what it delivered. Let's talk about the 22 RE engine because this is where things get legendary. This is a 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine that makes 113 horsepower. To put that in perspective, a modern Honda Civic makes 150. A minivan makes more power. Your mom's crossover could gap this truck at a stoplight without even trying. But here's the thing, this engine will not die. Top Gear, you know the show, straight up tried to murder a Hilux. They hit it with a wrecking ball, crashed it into a tree, set it on fire, drowned it in the ocean for hours, then put it on top of a building and demolished the building. And guess what? It kept running after basic repairs. The rest of the truck matches that unkillable philosophy. Simple ladder frame construction, tough axles, manual transmissions that feel like they were forged out of a mountain. Parts are cheap, everywhere, and still supported decades later. You can rebuild a 22 RE in your driveway with basic tools, a weekend, and mild confidence. Number 5. R33 Nissan Skyline GTR. Did you know Japan in the 1990s had this adorable little rule called a gentleman's agreement? All the car companies pinky promised to limit their performance cars to exactly 276 horsepower. Well, Nissan looked at this agreement, nodded respectfully, and then went on to build an engine that could handle 3 times that power without even breathing hard. And that's how we got the R33 Skyline GTR, a car that was dramatically over-engineered for the power it was legally allowed to make. It's like hiring a bodybuilder to open pickle jars. Completely unnecessary. Absolutely glorious. The R33, built from 1995 to 1998, sits in this weird middle child spot between the iconic R32 and the legendary R34. People forget about it. It doesn't get the same love. But here's the thing. It's built exactly the same way. Same insane engineering, same bulletproof guts, just slightly longer and a bit less famous. And at the heart of this thing is the RB26DETT, a 2.6-liter twin-turbo inline-six. Nissan built this motor with a cast-iron block, not aluminum, iron. The same material they use for engine blocks in semi-trucks and industrial equipment. It uses something called a closed deck design, which basically means the engine block is stupidly thick and rigid. Most engines have thin walls that flex under pressure like a soda can when you squeeze it. The RB26's block laughs at pressure. And here's another thing that makes this engine ridiculous. At 276 horsepower, it's barely working. The pistons are bored. The turbos are taking a nap. The whole engine is operating at like 35% capacity. It's like asking The Rock to carry a bag of chips. And it's not just the block. The entire drivetrain was overbuilt. The all-wheel drive system, the transmission, the differentials, all of it designed to handle way more torque than the factory power output would ever produce. Number 4. Honda Civic. Do you know what people thought when you told them you drove a Honda Civic in 1992? Absolutely nothing. But here's the thing. Nobody saw coming. While everyone else was chasing flashy sedans and status symbols, Honda was quietly engineering a car so bulletproof it would make tank manufacturers jealous. The 5th generation Civic from 1992 to 1995 wasn't trying to look sexy or win 0 to 60 races. It had one job: survive everything. And boy, did it over-deliver the bejesus out of it. We're talking about a car that could rack up 300,000 miles with nothing but oil changes and the occasional prayer. A car so reliable that mechanics started getting trust issues. So why do these Civics refuse to die? Simple answer: the D-Series engines, particularly the D16. Now, Honda could have turbocharged it, souped it up, made it exciting. Instead, they did something revolutionary. They made it boring on purpose. The D16 produced a modest 102 to 106 horsepower from 1.6 liters, which sounds pathetic until you realize Honda was operating at maybe 60% of the engine's actual capacity. And then there was the transmission, a masterclass in keep it simple, stupid. Cable-operated shifter with no fancy hydraulics to leak or fail. Simple gear sets that didn't stress the synchros. The manual was virtually indestructible. And even the automatic, usually the Achilles heel of 90s cars, refused to die. Before we reveal the final 3, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts on the best old Japanese car we've mentioned so far. Number 3. Toyota Corolla. If the automotive world had a hall of fame for cars that absolutely refused to die no matter what you did to them, the Toyota Corolla wouldn't just be inducted, it would be the head of the committee. When Toyota launched the Corolla in 1966, they weren't trying to be exciting. They weren't chasing speed or style. The goal was simple: build a car so relentlessly reliable, it made everything else look fragile by comparison. But by the late 70s, Toyota had a problem. Volkswagen had just dropped the Golf, and suddenly everyone was talking about front-wheel drive, clever packaging, and German engineering precision. The Golf was eating into Corolla's lunch, and Toyota engineers were not happy about it. Most companies would have rushed a desperate response. Toyota didn't. Instead, in the early 1980s, they rolled out the E80 Corolla. And this is where things got serious. The E80 wasn't just an update. It was a complete reinvention of what boring could achieve. Toyota switched to front-wheel drive, which freed up interior space like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Suddenly, passengers with actual legs could sit comfortably. The trunk could swallow groceries without complaint, and the whole package weighed less than before, which meant better fuel economy without sacrificing an ounce of that legendary Toyota indestructibility. And what truly locked the E80 into legend status sat under that plain hood. Engines like the 4AC and 4ALC were absurdly overbuilt. Simple 4-cylinder designs with absolutely zero drama. No fancy variable valve timing. Just bulletproof mechanicals that were engineered to operate at maybe 70% of their actual capability. Number 2. Lexus LS400. If you ever want to watch a German engineer have a nervous breakdown, just whisper 2 words: Lexus LS. In 1989, Mercedes-Benz was living its best life. The S-Class was the undisputed king of luxury. BMW was making ultimate driving machines, and the Japanese, they were stuck making econoboxes for people who thought heated seats were a wild extravagance. Then Toyota showed up with the LS400 in a mic drop moment. Toyota had spent the entire 80s quietly studying every luxury car on the planet, like a serial killer planning the perfect crime. They bought S-Classes, tore them apart, noted every rattle, every leak, every "that'll be $3,500 to fix" moment, and filed it all away. Then they locked their engineers in a room to build the most perfect luxury car ever. The budget? $1 billion. And the moment you drive it, you understand the budget was justified. Pop the hood, and you'll find the one UZF EV8, quite possibly the most over-engineered engine ever bolted into a luxury car. This wasn't just smooth, it was stupid smooth. Toyota engineers balanced it so perfectly that you could stack champagne glasses on the valve cover while it idled and they wouldn't budge. They literally did this in commercials, just to flex on Mercedes. And the transmission itself? Smooth as a crime. The 4-speed automatic shifted so seamlessly that passengers genuinely didn't realize the car had gears. No clunk, no hesitation, just butter. If shifting gears was an Olympic sport, the LS400 would have been banned for doping. But Toyota's revenge plot went deeper than just the mechanicals. Step inside, and it became painfully obvious that someone at Toyota had a personal vendetta against panel gaps. The interior was assembled with tolerances so tight, you'd think they were building submarines, not sedans. The wood trim was real, perfectly matched, and didn't peel off like cheap wallpaper after 3 summers. The leather was so soft, it felt like sitting on a cloud that had been to therapy, and you'll still feel the same decades later. Number 1. Toyota 4Runner. Where you go is your concern. Getting you back is ours. That was the marketing for the Toyota 4Runner back in the 1990s. For the first 2 generations, the 4Runner was basically a Hilux pickup truck wearing a camper shell like a bad Halloween costume. It worked, but it looked like someone's weekend project that accidentally made it to production. Reliable? Sure. Sophisticated? About as sophisticated as a mullet. But then 1996 happened, and Toyota decided enough was enough. They gave the 4Runner its own platform, its own body, and apparently its own personal vendetta against the concept of mechanical failure. While Ford Explorers were teaching Americans about rollover physics and Jeep Cherokees were spontaneously developing electrical problems that required an exorcist, Toyota built something so stupidly reliable it became a sales problem. Pop the hood and you had 2 choices. The 2.7-liter 4-cylinder making 150 horsepower. Perfect if you enjoy the sound of an engine really trying its best and the thrill of overtaking in slow motion. Or you could choose correctly and get the 3.4-liter 5VZF EV6. And oh boy, the 5VZF-E. This engine is the reason mechanics smile when they see 3rd-gen 4Runners roll in. Not because they're about to make money, because they know they won't. The 5VZF-E made 183 horsepower, which sounds pathetic until you realize Toyota engineered it to handle triple that. The pistons weren't working. They were on a permanent paid vacation. The timing chain just vibed. Everything was so under stress that wear was a theoretical concept. But Toyota didn't stop at making the engine unkillable. The frame was a fully boxed ladder construction that could probably stop small arms fire. The solid rear axle with coil springs was technology from approximately the Stone Age. That's why today, a clean 3rd-gen 4Runner can go for $15,000 or $20,000. We hope you enjoyed this video. Here's another one you'll love. As always, thanks for watching.